Hey everyone, before this episode begins, I want to let you know that I just started a brand new Secret Sonics Discord server. So if you want to join the community, head on over there. There'll be a link in the show notes. Go check it out. Hey everyone, welcome back to Secret Sonics. This is episode 120 with John McLucas. I had a great chat with John, and we talked about so many things, including his journey from playing the drums in rock bands to becoming a pop producer. We talked about reverse engineering a lifestyle that works for him, lessons and takeaways from Gary Vee, building a personal brand, doing content marketing, online community and outreach, saying yes to the right projects, being a digital nomad in a music producer kind of way. We talked about mixing on headphones, doing the reps, having patience, and basically everything in between. So quite a wide-ranging conversation. I think you're going to love it. So with all that to say, here's my conversation with John McLucas here on Secret Sonics. You're listening to Secret Sonics, a podcast exploring the creative side of music production. Join us weekly for honest conversations with real-world music producers and audio professionals. Hello, and welcome back to Secret Sonics. I'm your host, Ben Wallach. My guest today is John McLucas. John's career from 2014 to 2017 was the beginning of his audio freelancing at the same time as beginning to tour as a drummer for bands Hail, Sagan, and With Our Arms to the Sun. He toured over half the country and opened for Tool, Coheed and Cambria, and Primus. In 2016, he decided to double down on his production focus and go all in, living in a 150-square-foot industrial box in LA, to working his way up to a career in music to be full-time. He's currently a full-time pop producer working primarily online with artists. His credits include producing the viral TikTok artist Ben Michaels, Krimitz, Jaker, and many more. He's worked with companies such as Oculus VR, URM Academy, Produce Like a Pro, and DistroKid. Former guest of the show, Austin Hull, recommended I reach out to John, who's graciously agreed to join me on the show today. So with all that to say, welcome to Secret Sonics, John.
Yes, I was wondering who it was. I was wondering who.
That's where I got the email address from. Although I think in the end I just Instagram messaged you.
You did. You absolutely did. But it's great. It's great to be here. And I was actually like anticipating. I was wondering. Yeah, I was like, who's again? Because I don't think you said in your outreach message in the first place.
No. So it was Austin. I actually checked it out to make sure before I got ready for the interview because I didn't remember who it was either. No offense, Austin, but yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about inviting you on, and then got distracted and eventually remembered to, and then I went for it. And thank you. How you doing? I'm just excited to have a great meanderance of a conversation. I think we got like really into it organically. So I think this can be a really insightful conversation where people can hopefully have like a handful of tangible things. I like to get really specific with these kinds of like conversations and podcasts and make sure that somebody's like, okay, I can go do X, Y, Z now, instead of saying too heady at times. So I think we'll get into some really good stuff and hopefully save people some heartache and tell some stories, maybe cry, maybe hug. We'll see where it goes. Over Zoom, Yeah, sure. Yeah, amazing. Well, John, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story. What's your origin story? Like, when did music become a thing for you, and how did that evolve into, I guess, production?
For me, it started back when I was 10. My mom, I'll give the detail. So when my mom was in her teens, her father had a stroke, and she became a bit of a caregiver. This has a point, I promise. And when I was 10, and as my mother, she realized, she's like, I never got to try music. I never got to like be a teenager, really. I was a caregiver and took care of my family. So she was like, I'm going to take guitar lessons because I always wanted to, and I never had the chance. And both of you like pick something, and you're going to do it. And then if you don't like it, you don't have to do it anymore. So I was like, should I do voice? Should I do I like wanted the loud stuff because if you know me at all, my girlfriend's already smiling at me, but joking about my loudness. So I was thinking vocals, sax, or drums. I ended up picking drums because they were clearly the most. How are we about? We're cool with language on the show?
Oh, yeah.
Great. Okay, just want to make sure. I've been working on PGing myself personally, like for things I want to do with like nonprofit youth programs. So I have to be able to turn on and off my filter accordingly. But it also hasn't been great so far.
My wife is giving me a hard time also because we have a 3-year-old and he parrots whatever I say. So you got to be careful sometimes.
Yeah. So drums just look badass. Yeah, hell yeah, that looks great. And 2 lessons later, she bought a drum kit. After the second lesson, we just went downstairs to the music store, got a drum kit. My dad was pretty pissed, but it's the drum kit I had for 16 years. So I think it went
Amazing.
well. And that
That's
was
awesome.
that was the gateway drug, starting there, getting into learning about Led Zeppelin and AC/DC and just that kind of beginnings of, the legends of like rock music was really where I started.
Amazing. And so at what point did production become a thing for you? Because it's also interesting because you're like deep in the pop world, but
I
you're
know,
coming
right?
from this rock background. I feel like a lot of people that are producing pop these days are actually rock people at heart. I know some of the biggest guys, like, I don't know, The Cause that produced, Dua Lipa comes from this like rock background, like all these people,
Well, I think it's an interesting curve because like I used to be a super anti-pop elitist, and
Of course.
yeah, who wouldn't be when you're in metal? That's kind of the norm in that world, is to be a terrible elitist for at least a portion of your metal career. And yeah, I used to think it was like an easy thing to make, and then I tried to make it and I was like, uh-oh, this doesn't sound like what I thought it would sound like. That's bad. So but to actually answer your question, so I played in bands like rock bands high school, but it got into production when I started watching YouTubers who would record themselves drumming, and I was like, that looks great. Like that looks so cool. Like that you can make a video and put it up and get all this. Yeah, do that. It's like there's microphones, any cables. I went to the music store. They gave me like a 10-minute summary of how to mix drums and like what audio routing is, and then I just kind of YouTubed, through my terribleness for a while. And I got a job at the movie theater to like be able to cover things. I got like $8 XLRs off of Amazon. It's great, and just slowly assembled the necessary things to get started. And that was it. Like through high school, I just had bands in the living room. Graciously, my parents were tolerant of that.
Shout out to mom and dad, right?
On deep shout. But yeah, that was it. And so I that kind of got the, then you start doing that whole like innocent band, let's record ourselves experience where you go into it, and I kind of naturally cared a lot more. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll record it and try to figure out what the heck I'm doing. And then that snowballed into going to a short music college program, and to actually, try to get better at what I was doing there and see what I could do.
Amazing. And I guess when did you have a moment where you kind of just said, okay, shit, I'm doing this full time. This is what I'm about,
I should have this like story nailed. Like there should be, I need this. This is a terrible, I should have this story. Like there
like
should
you're
be
a busy
like
pop producer now. Like how did you get from recording, your band in the living room to what you're doing today,
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like there should be some like genesis, like I went into a studio and then I had a magic moment, right? And then and then you spark, and then I realized, like in copywriting or storytelling, right? That'd be an epiphany bridge story where I talk about my genesis moment from going to my previous state to my current state, and I don't have that story necessarily. Well, okay, let me think about it. Do I have that moment? Okay, maybe. So, yeah, okay, I do.
Give it a shot.
I found it.
Amazing.
Now, the trick is I have to work on like the emotional journey of telling the story, but I haven't sorted that out yet. So when I went to I did this 9-month audio program at this school, and I just wasn't it's a different conversation, but it's fine. I mean, I guess it worked. Here we are, right? So
Yeah,
it's
sure.
a job. And as I decided I was going to do another 3 months there, but an artist because I was kind of flirting with it. I thought, well, okay, this seems really cool. I want to learn more about this, and I had some interest in it, but I didn't have, I think, the full like hunger for it as currently now. And an artist I worked with, she got an opportunity to make an album with them in New York, the school's in LA, and do the whole do the whole star experience. Like I was flown out, it got me a beautiful place, and went into this gorgeous old church to make music. And that experience of like, there's ping pong downstairs and people bring food, and kind of got the whole 9 yards. Right? Is that 9 yard? Yeah. Is that a phrase?
Yeah, the whole 9 yards is definitely a phrase.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was like, that doesn't sound right though. Like, cause there's a lot more yards than that.
You would say they brought, I don't know. Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
It was like a view of what could be. I was severely not ready for the opportunity, but
So you came to like do drums for this project?
Actually, no, they had a drummer that they flew out too. So I was essentially co-producing and, doing like in the box stuff too. So like preparing the demos beforehand, and we recorded the real stuff at this beautiful church, upstate New York. So doing that, I was like, wow, that was ferociously fun, and just an incredible experience. And I knew obviously that was an anomaly, but I was like, wow, that's something I want to get back to for sure. And
gave you a goal.
Yeah. My goal was like to never never have little enough going on where I have to go back to that school. Like where I just didn't want to be too free to have to enroll in like filling my time. So it's kind of the goal. It's like, if I can stay busy enough, I'm like, oh, I don't have time to go back and learn. I was like, then I'm, traditional learning, then I think I'm doing good. So that was kind of the barometer, and that was a big.
You had like this spunk in you to kind of just be like, okay, this is fun. I don't want to be studying. I want to be doing real life experiences.
Yeah,
like figuring this shit out by myself.
I mean, man, the environment too of school is such an insulation from reality, and the moment I got out of it, I was like, oh wow, this is what it's like to do something real. Let's do more of that, please. But at the same time, I was also juggling like the drumming stuff. So it was like a conflict that lasted like 3 years, trying to figure out what path I wanted to go with it. And picking.
I totally feel that. I've juggled that as well. I mean, I started a wedding band here in Israel that, I still play in occasionally, but I co-founded it. It was like my baby. And then at a certain point, it's like, no, I really just want to be in the studio long term. At a certain point, I had to like make a decision that like, hey, I don't have time to manage this band if I want anything to pick up in the studio, for me long term. And, at a certain point, you have to make that decision. Like, what do you really want to do? And double down on that one.
Yeah, it was a rough choice. Very rough, but I can confidently say I'm glad that we both did it. For sure.
Yeah. Well, you were kind of talking to me a little bit about this before we kind of jumped into the actual interview part of our call. You're doing things totally remotely these days, working with artists all over the world. Like, let's talk a little bit about how you're doing that and how you're making it work for yourself.
'Twas a journey, but that's what we're here to unpack. So we're gonna do it. Yeah, so for people who don't know, I'm currently in Austin. I'm doing what the internet cringily calls digital nomad life, where, my girl and I both work remotely. So we can be flexible with our location. We just ended our lease, sold most of our stuff. We jammed some stuff in the corner of my dad's like shop, his warehouse shop. There's like a high shelf where we have like 7 boxes and that's it. Like, that's enough. Thank you. Glad we found a little corner to stuff in, and took off. So reverse engineering it, because I don't think I wouldn't recommend anybody plunge into it. I've been full-time now for 4.5 years. And from that time, like the biggest thing is I've spent so much of my, marketing energy or the connecting with people energy on social media that by default, a lot of the people I work with are online. So even pre-pandemic, I had actually made that shift. I was actually very fortunate that 6 months before, it was like, all right, I'm going to intentionally, not try to do in-person sessions, like work with people remotely and double down on what I doubled down on to continue to get more focused. And because of, it's really a question of the content, because the content drives everything. People find me on TikTok, people find me on Instagram, people referral, right, to get my email, something like that. And because it doesn't matter where I am. And I use my VSX headphones to mix and record and produce and do everything. So I could be sitting here in the kitchen and Michelle's cooking, and I was working on a track yesterday and it worked great. Like, I got a great feedback from the artist and they were just stunned and really happy with it. So that is, so it's really, it came down to content marketing. Truly came down to, and I don't even like saying content marketing. I just think of it more like spending time online and kind of like Gary Vee says, give, ask. It's just spending time in communities. If you want to be known in a circle or in a group, you have to just relentlessly give and become known as somebody who gives. Like, it's pretty simple in theory. And I think people want to overthink it like it's some magical thing, but it's like, I've been spending my life on the internet for 5 years. Now I'm looking to hire somebody, but like it's been 5 years of doing it on my own to figure out what worked. And now I can meet artists through the internet. We have 2 sessions later today with artists on the internet, and it's just kind of the default now. And COVID obviously pushed that even further.
I have a couple questions. First of all, I'm curious to like what you actually did that you think made the biggest difference in terms of like I don't know, doing that giving on the internet, making the right content, figuring out how